Warning, this video contains heavy spoilers for the Mother series. Please proceed at your own risk. Those of you who have watched the channel for a while now know that Earthbound is my all-time favorite video game. Heck, that's pretty evident just by looking at some of the videos I've posted on this channel. It's truly one of those games that impacts you on such an emotional level, it's really kind of hard to describe. This is incredibly fascinating considering the main protagonist of Earthbound is a speechless 13-year-old boy who heals himself with hamburgers that he finds while rummaging through the trash. Yeah, he's a pretty serious little dude. Earthbound is an experience, and one that fans of the series cherish, and those who have never played it fail to understand until they try it for themselves. Over the years, I've done quite a bit of research into the Mother series as a whole. Why were there so many changes from the Japanese version? Is Earthbound just a reboot of the original game on the NES? Why did Mother 3 never get localized? Is Shigesato Itoi the second coming of Jesus? Many of the perusing I've done on the internet concerning the series was out of curiosity, but interestingly enough, I never really dug into the lore and origins of some of the characters in the games. Most specifically, are all of the Mother titles connected in some way? Why would they share a common title, but seemingly have nothing to do with one another? Well, that's where you would be wrong. In fact, the entire series can be traced back to the main antagonist himself, Porky Minch. Giygas, of course, Giygas. The overall premise of the first two Mother titles is pretty generic. Evil alien race invades Earth, the unsuspecting main hero recruits other heroes to fight the aliens and send them back to where they came from, yada yada. Except there's so much more to it than that. The real story comes in with Giygas, or Geek, depending on which game you're playing. On the surface, Mother 1 and 2 are so incredibly similar that some gaming theorists even believe them to be the same game, with Earthbound just being the full version of what Itoi wanted to create on the NES but was limited by the hardware and processing capabilities of the console. Honestly, this is also what I believed for the longest time. Earthbound Zero just feels like a bare bones version of the SNES version, with similar enemies and characters. But I was wrong. Something that had always intrigued me was the striking difference between Geek from Mother and Giygas from Earthbound. Geek seems like a relatively normal alien bad guy, angry at Nintendo for slowing the destruction of the human race on Earth. Giygas, on the other hand, is absolutely terrifying. His appearance is haunting, his attacks cannot be comprehended, and is the very embodiment of insanity and evil. Truly unnerving stuff. But are Giygas and Geek one and the same? Do they exist in parallel timelines? I'll start with the story of Geek. The original concept of Geek was originally written as Giyig, which is kind of like a palindrome. Pronounced Geeg, Geek, the name was changed to prevent confusion with pronunciation. This would also explain why the first images and screenshots of Earthbound mentioned the Geek returns. But they were later changed to Giygas, a name Itoi himself found to translate to evil and unsettling to say. The backstory of Earthbound Zero involves a series of abductions, in which an alien race in this story inquisitively captured humans to observe. Two unsuspecting individuals from the town of Podunk, Maria and George, were part of the abductions 80 years prior to the events of the actual game. While on board the various alien space vessels, they were probed and prodded, with the aliens' curiosity at an insatiable level. Maria, being an affectionate person overall, took a liking to a certain member of the alien race, Geek. Many portions of text throughout the game point to how she comforted Geek and even sang him lullabies, which had unknown effects. Interesting. George, on the other hand, was not as affectionate, but had previously been an accomplished journalist on Earth. His curiosity was just as rampant as the alien race observing him, and he managed to escape the clutches of them some years later. George was incredibly determined to unlock the secret behind Geek and his species' PSI abilities in an effort to emulate the technology in humans. This prerogative upset Geek and his race, causing him to hunt George down, kill him, and start a rampage of anger and unwarranted destruction. Not necessarily the way you want to go out if you're George, but at least his efforts did not fall flat, as his future relative Ninten would be the one to end the reign of Geek once and for all. One interesting fact about Geek is how disturbing but eerily familiar his character model looks. He actually resembles the Pokemon Mewtwo, and since Animation members of Mother went on to work on Red and Blue games, it kinda makes sense. Through Geek's havoc, Ninten and his friends strive to defeat his evil reign and eventually come face to face with him. The battle initially seems insurmountable until a little known secret's revealed and Geek is chased away by the lullabies being sang out loud. The 8 melodies, the same songs that Maria sang to Geek when she was with him on the alien spacecraft, rendered him effectively useless and forced to come back at another date to finish the battle. Interestingly enough is his request to spare Ninten's life out of respect for his ancestors, Maria and George. Geek and the alien race's rule was over. For now. So, where does Giygas fit into the equation? Well, if you didn't already figure it out, Geek and Giygas are one and the same. After suffering a lackluster defeat at the hands of Ninten, Geek goes back into hiding for some number of years, building up his strength. It's been theorized that his obsession with his power escalated exponentially over time as he began to absorb the power from other aliens of his own race, growing and growing, eventually to the point where he didn't recognize himself in his own insanity. However, there are quite a few theories revolving around Giygas and how he turned from a subjectively normal alien to the monster that we know of from Earthbound. It is told at various points in the game that Giygas has accessed the Apple of Enlightenment and learned that he is defeated by our protagonist Ness and his friends. Some believe that Giygas didn't believe the apple, explaining why he wasn't necessarily concerned about wiping out Ness from the beginning. Some believe that Giygas became so frustrated that he accumulated so much power that he became forced to reside within the Devil's Machine to contain his power. The timeline gets a bit tricky here, but I believe them both to be true to a point. Ness's friendly neighborhood trader, Pokey, or Porky Minch, is jealous in some way of Ness and decides to side with Giygas, taking advantage of the beast. When Ness and his company travel back in time to stop Giygas, it's one of the most ominous and horrifying video game experiences I've ever had. You're walking up to this organic, internal organ-looking pathway, robot limbs clinking, all the way up to the grand finale where it literally looks like you're approaching a uterus with Ness's face on it. Pretty disturbing stuff. Pokey is there, though I'm not quite sure how he really got there or how he became friends with Giygas in the first place, but I digress. After defeating him, Pokey becomes frustrated, turns off the Devil's Machine, causing the full wrath of Giygas to be unleashed on the party. One of the most popular theories floating around is the Fetus Theory. Itoi once described the origin of Giygas being dreamt up based on a childhood memory that he had. The Renaissance man walked into the wrong film at the cinema when he was young, encountering a graphic scene that haunted him for a long time. This haunting became personified with the creation of Geek turned into the insane image of Giygas. Terrifying start. This theory is further reinforced by one of Giygas' later forms, where his disintegrating face is trapped in the outline of really what looks like something in utero. So essentially, by going back in time to defeat Giygas, you're performing an abortion of evil incarnate. However, despite the amount of backers this theory has, many have deconfirmed it, including Itoi himself. That pretty much rests the case. Most likely, the explanation for Giygas' appearance and existence in the Devil's Machine, and the theory I wholly agree with, is the insanity theory I alluded to earlier. This can further be confirmed by taking the same image of the surmised fetus and turning it completely different. By flipping Giygas' face upside down, it actually looks like a warped version of Geek's original form from Earthbound 0. Mind blown. Once the Devil's Machine is destroyed, Pokey essentially killed any physical version of Giygas, released the essence of evil onto humanity. As Paula begins praying, that little bit of emotion that's left inside Giygas surfaces, and his conceptualized form begins to break down further, until it becomes less and less recognizable as a physical entity. It's powerful stuff. Ness, it hurts, is a line that stuck with me forever. I know it's hard to empathize with the embodiment of evil and destruction, but it still made me think of how Giygas truly felt. As Geek, he had absorbed so much power in so many minds that it was hard to even remember who he was. And it was the emotion brought forth by prayer that dissolved his existence. So, with this utter and drastic defeat, did we truly see the end of Giygas? If that truly is the case, then why is there a Mother 3? Why do all the mainline games have a similar, overarching title? Some believe that Lucas and Klaus's importance through Mother 3 is a sign of Giygas' last-ditch effort to take over the world, but this doesn't hold much weight with me. Giygas was essentially only a conscience when Pokey turned off the Devil's Machine in Earthbound. When his trust was betrayed by his second-in-command, Giygas' conscience and mind was obliterated. So I don't really buy this theory. The one aspect that holds Mother 2 and 3 together, however, is the resurgence of Pokey himself. He becomes so obsessed with the gift of time travel he ends up immortal, recruits a giant army to follow him and destroy the world. Well, we all know how that one turned out. So, I can't really see any other tie to Giygas and Mother 3. Then maybe perhaps that hidden battle true fans know about. So, that's about it. Sure, there are more theories about Giygas and other characters in Earthbound, but none that really echo Giygas living on after the events where he was dissipated by madness. Deep dive topics like these are why I enjoy games like Earthbound so much. The game refrains from shoving every answer in your face and actually caused the dedicated gamers to do a bit of research into the deep elements of the game. So what do you guys think? Please leave me your favorite theories in the comments section below. If you enjoy this type of video and you made it this far, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button with the bell for notifications so my videos can jump to the top of your list. New videos coming out every Thursday. Well guys, as always, this is Kevin from the Mega Man Cave signing out. Happy spelunking.